Hi, I'm Scott Allen, National Sales Manager of Beretta. Today, we're here to talk about accuracy issues with your gun. I'll firstly start with one point. All Seiko, Tikka and front gear rifles that come out of the factory have been accuracy tested within their factory specifications. So on the day, under those conditions, with that person, that optic and that ammo, each rifle has passed a factory accuracy test. So that's a really good place to start. Now, when you buy a rifle, you're buying a bare rifle. You're buying just the rifle. You're not buying any accessories, the scope, the rings, the bases, the bipod, the sling, even a muzzle brake. There's lots of accessories that we can put on a gun. Usually the accessories is where sometimes our accuracy starts to go a little wrong. So let's look at it in a little more depth. Let's take the scope. First place you want to start is the optics. Optics and mounting solution. Normally we have rings and bases, sometimes we have a ring mount. We want to go around, make sure that everything is tightened correctly. So that's including the bases. The bases underneath here have a couple of screws normally. Sometimes you'll need to take the scope off if you're having issues. Check the bases are torqued up correctly to the factory specifications of that particular mount manufacturer. Then put our rings back on carefully and then the optics back on as well. Tighten those all up to factory specifications. Shoot another group and see how you go. If you're still not satisfied with the grouping or it's outside the manufacturer's recommendations, well, what you want to do is start looking at your optics. Scopes can cause problems. It's usually the number one place we have an accuracy issue with a firearm. So what we want to do is we want to do a couple of simple tests. If you've got a bore sighter that you can put in here with a little grid system, what you can do is take your caps off. Take both off, because it could be your elevation or it could be your windage. So we have elevation here and windage here. What we want to do is a little simple test. We want to put our bore sighter in. We want to look at the grid, have a look through the scope, see where it's positioned on the grid. We do a couple of things. Get a backhand of a screwdriver or a rubber mallet and just tap your scope like this and see if your reticle is actually jumping around on the grid. What causes that jumping around sometimes is maybe we have our elevation or our windage for that matter adjusted far too far over. So what we have inside here is these little springs called erector springs. Those erector springs are squashed like this. It will allow the reticle to jump around like this, causing you inaccuracy. So on your target, you'll see the bullet jumping here, there, here. Sometimes you may even get two together and all of a sudden one over here. That could be simple fix of adjusting your scope out a little bit, making sure those erector springs aren't under stress, problem solved. Another problem that we could find, and it can be a part of your erector spring problem, is the tracking. To check the tracking on your scope, set up a target and you want to do a square. So whether it's an even amount of clicks, so you want to go right, down, left, up, and an even amount of clicks. Let's call it 12 clicks. In most scopes, that'll be 3 inches. So we'll be doing a 3-inch square. Cross, down, back across again, and up. You should finish the group in exactly the same position as you did to start. If you didn't, and the group is down here or over there, you can have a tracking problem with your scope. So you'd need to send that back to the manufacturer to be checked. Let's assuming the mounts are correctly torqued. You've checked your tracking on your scope. Another thing you could do, pretty simple, get somebody else to shoot it. Get them to shoot it. Try and get someone you know is a really good shot, potentially at your club, a champion in their particular discipline. See how it shoots for them. If it's shooting the same for them, well, maybe you need to investigate a little bit further. And let's investigate a little bit further again. Let's talk about ammunition. Different ammunition can shoot vastly different. So what they shoot at the factory and what you bought at the local store could be completely different rounds to shoot. For instance, I had a 300 Winchester Magnum once. It shot 150 grain and 165 grain pills in a one-hole group. As soon as I went to a 180 grain pill, it shot a 4-inch group. By simply changing the ammunition, my groups went from 4 inches to through the same hole. So make sure you try a variety of ammunitions. Make sure you try them on different days as well. So different climatic conditions will give you different group sizes. The other thing when you're shooting a group When you shoot from a cold barrel, usually you will get one shot that flies down, up, across. That's your cold bore shot. Maybe don't take that into account. Shoot one group with a cold bore group, see how your group ends up. Next group after that, put more credence on that. Your third group, that's probably going to be where the sweet spot of your rifle is. Once you start shooting more and more groups, obviously your rifle barrel will get hotter. As it gets hotter, you'll find that the barrel is fouling also. Fouling can also cause severe accuracy problems. Depending on the caliber, fouling could occur after 20, 30, 40 rounds. So you need to check your barrel is not foul. A really simple way to do that is grab the rifle, turn it upside down, get an LED torch, have a look inside. You'll see the copper fouling. It looks like copper. It's pretty easy to see. Some rifles foul worse than others. Sometimes when a rifle is new, you'll get more fouling than when it's older. So sometimes new rifles require a little bit more cleaning. So make sure your rifle is totally clean. Going back to the cold bore shot again. If you have a cold bore shot, it must be with a clean rifle. If your rifle is clean as opposed to dirty, they'll perform two different groups for you. So very distinct thing, clean your rifle before you shoot it again. If you aren't sure about the optic, I'll quickly go back to that, change it for another optic. Try it, see how that particular optic shoots as opposed to the one that you had on it. That could solve your problem as well. Let's go to something else with your rifle. Often we get a new rifle, we take it apart, we adjust the trigger. We don't pay too much attention sometimes to how we do the action screws up. You need to do it up to the manufacturer's torque settings. Check your manual, call customer service, and they'll give you the correct torque rating. But if you don't have a torque wrench and you just want a rule of thumb, you want to do it a good hand tight on the forend, and you want to do it a little bit less on the rear of the stock. So tighter, not so tight. By adjusting the rear bolt a little bit this way and a little bit that way, you'll find it can help with your accuracy. It will change your group sizes in some cases. Now let's have a look at this typical rifle. We've put a scope on it, a sling, a bipod, and in this case there's a muzzle brake. So we've got a lot of accessories. What difference can that cause? Well, I've seen at times people put a bipod on, and when there's not a stud from the factory, putting their own stud in, coming through the stock and then physically touching the barrel. Anything that's touching your barrel will also cause the rifle not to shoot well. So whether that be stock or another foreign object, all tickers and psychos are floated from the factory. Now when I say floated, they don't have to be perfectly even on each side of the barrel channel, it just needs to be floated. If you get a piece of paper and you run it through here, you'll see that it's perfectly floated. When you get a ticker or psycho rifle, you will see, you'll see a little foam strip that shows you the gun is perfectly floated. As I said, you don't have to have a perfectly even gap in the barrel channel. All you need is the floating of the barrel. It's never perfect, that barrel channel, and it has nothing to do with the accuracy of your rifle. Going on to other accessories. If your rifle has been threaded from the factory and you're putting a factory brake on, you should have no problems with accuracy issues, although it may cause your loads to shoot differently. So you might find the brake helps performance or hinders performance. But if it's a factory brake and it's a factory cut thread, you usually find the accuracy is quite good. On the other hand, if you get a brake fitted by an aftermarket source, you may find the brake hasn't been fitted correctly. It's slightly off, causing turbulence with the gases, causing issues with the projectile on exiting the barrel, which once again can cause an accuracy issue. So let's go over a couple of things that we've spoken about. The simple stuff. Check your mount. Check your scope. Check your action screws. And then review any accessories that you put on the rifle before you send your rifle back to be accuracy tested. A couple of important points as your rifle ages, or even when it's new, but particularly as it ages, a couple of things to check. Here's your muzzle. Make sure there's no muzzle damage. You could accidentally drop it, put it on the muzzle, something you may not be aware that you've actually done. Check your muzzle, make sure there's no damage on it. That will cause your accuracy issues. Also be aware, as your rifle gets older, it's going to shoot not quite as well. So if it's 2, 3, 4 years old and you fired quite a few rounds through it, you're going to start to get throat erosion. There's nothing you can do about throat erosion. It's completely natural in a rifle. It's a mechanical thing. It will wear. Just like a car's engine will wear, you can replace the barrel if you wish, or better still for us, buy a brand new rifle. But be aware, the rifle will start to shoot, not quite as well as it did when you first bought it after a period of time. Thanks for listening. If you've got any questions, contact Beretta Customer Service on the email provided down the bottom of the screen.